I'm live again, woohoo! So, as you could see by the title, we are going to talk about my NBA standings predictions for the Western Conference. Now, there is a slight issue here, and that is the West is impossible to predict. Like, I spent a good half hour, 45 minutes trying to figure out not only who's going to make the top 8, but where everybody is going to rank. And obviously every year there's a surprise team and it's not easy to predict where each team is going to end up. But this is probably the first year where I am not confident on 99% of the spots that I put a team in or that I'm thinking about putting a team in. Like, I usually have, a few wild cards in there that I'm like, this team may end up here and all that. There's really only one team, kind of, in my mind where I put them in a specific spot. And I'm like, I feel pretty confident that that's where they're going to end up in the standings in the West. But everybody else, I am struggling. Like, I really wanted to come on here and have a set standings predictions for you guys. But the issue is I can't even really decide on where I want each team to end up. It's really crazy. So let's talk through it a bit. So here's the thing. The number 1 seed that most people are projecting, because obviously I was looking at other people's projections as well, and most people are projecting, of course, OKC to be number 1. Why? Because OKC, all their players are young, so they should only be better, of course, and they just picked up Isaiah Hartenstein, which solves some of their, weaknesses. He's a very, very good center. And so they should be better. Everybody is entering their prime, or, like Shea is entering his prime. He should be better this year. And obviously Chet should be better. J-Dub, Jalen Williams, like all the young guys should be better. So it makes sense as to why, a lot of people have them as a number 1 seed. And on the prediction, thing that I made, I put OKC at number 1 right now as well. But I am like struggling to see if OKC will be number 1. This is what I mean. Like, I can't even decide who's the number 1 seed. I literally can't even decide. So right now I have OKC as number 1. And I think that is the consensus amongst most people. But I'm not even confident in that. I'm really not. That's the issue. So let me run through sort of what I have. Like, this is not a set list. But obviously, like I said, I have OKC projected to be number 1 at the moment. And then at number 2, I have the Timberwolves. And I don't not like that. I do like the Timberwolves at 2. I think the team still should be good. I think they might be better because I think DiVincenzo was a great pickup. And I think Cat, as talented as he is as a player himself, the fit wasn't there. So I like the trade that they did. We just have to see how it all works together. And so I don't dislike Minnesota at 2. I just don't feel confident in that either. And then we get to like some bigger issues. And that is, I put right now the Mavericks at 3. And I think a lot of people would say, well, that makes sense because the Mavericks just went to the NBA Finals and they picked up Klay Thompson. And there should be more chemistry this season and their young guys should be better. Like Derek Lively, who was very, very good last year. And PJ Washington has, more time to develop chemistry with his teammates. And Daniel Gafford. So, like, that obviously makes sense. But my question is, like, are we somehow overhyping the Mavericks because they made the NBA Finals? I know that's a weird question because if you make the NBA Finals, how could you be overhyped, right? But I'm wondering, like, are we riding on their making the NBA Finals as, like, making them win more games than they're going to actually win? That's kind of like the issue I'm having right now. So, like, I think I have the Mavs at 3, but I don't know if I feel confident in that at all either. And then I Again, this is not a set list. I'm just thinking about it. Someone said it's the Heat finals in 2020 all over again. I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily like that, but like, I guess that's a fair comparison where like, I don't know if this is like a recurring thing. Like, I don't know if the Mavericks are going to be at the top of the West every year, but at the same time, like, I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to say that because they literally have Luka in his prime and they just got Klay Thompson and Kyrie and all this. So I'm just struggling there. But here comes the the bigger struggle. I have the Grizzlies at 4 at the moment. I even had the Grizzlies at 2 or 3 when I was first making the list. I was like, oh, I forgot the Timberwolves. Like, I was forgetting teams left and right. So I had the Grizzlies at 2 at one point, and then I had the Grizzlies at 4 at this current moment. And the Grizzlies, I feel like every time they go through a rough patch, they come back and they just like win so many games and nobody expects it. But the difference is this time, they don't have Tyus Jones anymore. They don't have Steven Adams, who were two really, really important players to those, runs that they made. So I'm like, am I just being too optimistic about the Grizzlies because we see them just always come back? They bounce back really, easily. And they still have John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, right? So like, it makes sense. But am I being too optimistic by putting them at 4? Like, did they lose too much to be the number 4 seed with how loaded the West is? See, this is what I mean. Like, you see my issue here? This is the team, number 5, that I feel confident in as much as I can feel confident in a team. And that is the Denver Nuggets at 5. I feel confident that they're going to be 5 because I feel like with Jokic and Jamal Murray and the team that they have, they should be good enough to make the playoffs. But I think they lost, I already didn't like the loss of Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. Now you lost KCP. I think it takes them out of the top 3 for sure in terms of standings. So this is the one team where I'm like, 5 sounds right. Like, if I had to bet on any team finishing in any spot, it would be the Nuggets at 5. I'm not saying that the Nuggets will necessarily finish 5 because obviously I can't, make the future happen. But that is the one I feel most confident in. But now let me back up for a second, right? Because on the list, I had the Warriors at 6. But the more I think about it, I'm like, I kind of feel like the Warriors are going to be like 4 or 3. Oh my, I just forgot. Hello. See, this is what I mean. Like, I also had the Kings at 4 on my potential. You see what I mean? Like, there's too many contradictions. I also had the Kings at 4 because I was like, well, they got DeMar DeRozan. And while I don't think they're necessarily a top 3 team, I feel like they're going to have a bounce back season because last year was not as good as the year before. I feel like they should be better with adding DeMar. So that's why it's an issue. They were a top team just 2 seasons ago. Are you talking about the Grizzlies? That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I feel like they should be up there still, but like there are so many talented teams. Let me give you an example. I read an article that was giving their standings predictions for the West. Do you know what they said? They said the number 12 seed is going to be the Clippers. Okay, that's fine. Do you know what the record they had for the Clippers were? Like 44-38. A number 12 seed is going to be over 500. That is why it's impossible. That's why it's impossible to predict. If the number 12 seed in the Western Conference is going to be an over 500 team, then how is anybody supposed to figure out where anybody is going to end up? Because that's basically saying that 12 out of the 15 teams are technically a playoff team. Because if you're over 500, you should make the playoffs, right? So they're basically saying the Eastern Conference is not going to have as many 500 teams. That's another thing. However, it's just a struggle. So like I said, I have the Kings also 4, along with the Grizzlies. And then I also have the Warriors 4. That is the problem. Because I feel like the Warriors are also going to have a bounce back season. I feel like all the players that they picked up in the offseason are going to fit really nicely. And I feel like they're going to, sneak their way up. Like, I'm not predicting them to be the number 1 seed at this moment. But kind of like in 2022, when like no one expected them to be, the number 1 seed in the West and stuff like that. That's kind of like the way I see them bouncing back this season. You know what I mean? Like, not that they're going to be the number 1 seed necessarily, but that they're going to sneak their way up the standings. And then people are going to be like, oh, they are that good. So this is why I'm struggling. Because I could see the Warriors being a 4 seed, a 3 seed. Like, I just feel like the pieces fit together. But I do feel like they do need, another star, which is why they're making phone calls to get another star to pair alongside Steph Curry. So I'm not predicting that they're going to be the 1 seed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think the Warriors might be the surprise team, quote unquote surprise, surprise team of the season where they finish higher than people are expecting. So now we got 3 teams at the 4 seed in my list. You got the Warriors, you got the Kings, and you got the Grizzlies. And then I had the Rockets at 7 because I'm like, wait a minute. They're building something pretty nice over there. Ime Udoka is such a good coach. And they were 10 times better when he was there, once he got there. So who's to say that they're not going to have a really good season now? Like another year together, chemistry. Jalen Green, like he should be continuing, what he was doing last year after Şengün got hurt. So it's like the Rockets should be good too. But hey, guess what? We didn't even talk about the Lakers. We literally didn't even mention the Lakers. And the Clippers either. Like I said, the prediction standings that I read had the Clippers at 12. And guess what? I didn't talk about the Suns either. And in my list, I don't have the Suns making the top 8. I don't, because there's no room for them. There's literally no room for them. If I had to pick a team out of these star-powered teams, I guess if you want to call it, to not make it, I'm going with the Suns. Like, there's too much inconsistency, unpredictability, unfortunately, injury, issues there. So the Suns are not making the top 8 on my list. That may be a hot take. People may not like that opinion, but I can't even fit them in, even if I wanted to. So there is no Phoenix Suns in the playoffs in my scenario, right? So now we go back to the Spurs too. Because my issue with not putting the Spurs in is that, okay, Victor Wembanyama should be another year better. We know he's going to be awesome. The thing that's like pulling at me is, you know who they got? Chris Paul. I know. Chris Paul is like almost 40 years old. But you know what Chris Paul does? Every team that he goes to, they make the playoffs. Every team. I'm like, how do I not have the Spurs making the playoffs when they got Greg Popovich and Chris Paul? You see my dilemma there? I know that's like, again, like if I had to pick a team, I might leave the Spurs out. But I'm just saying, like, that's another team where I'm like, they could be a surprise team as well. Like, Victor Wembanyama could have a crazy, crazy season. Someone said, I think CP3 can lead the league in assists per game. Oh, Carson sent me some roses. Thank you, Carson. I see 7 roses. I appreciate it. Thank you, Carson. What was the comment that I just read? So sorry. CP3 can lead the league in assists per game. Right. So that's where the issue is. Like, Chris Paul can make them so much better. And while I'm not saying they're going to be a top seed in the West either, it's like every team besides, no offense, to Portland and even the Jazz could technically have a chance, but like they may be, still in a funny spot. But the Blazers and the Jazz, is there anybody else? Like, that may be the only 2 teams in the West where you're like, I feel pretty confident that they're not going to make it. Everybody else literally has a chance. And that's like insane. So, am I sticking with the list that I gave you guys? Well, I didn't even give you guys a full list considering I changed it up multiple times. And you can comment down below if you agree or disagree with some of the things I said. Someone said, Lakers unfortunately will not make it. Yeah, I don't know if I have the Lakers making it either, to be honest, because I don't know if there's a spot for them. I didn't even talk about the Pelicans. Hello. My issue with the Pelicans is Brandon Ingram. There's like too much question marks around him right now. Like we don't know if he's going to be traded or what's going to happen with him. So, and I'm a fan of the Pelicans. If you watch this page, you know that I've had the Pelicans very high for the past couple of seasons because I thought they were that good, that talented. And when they were healthy, each time, they would be a top seed in the West. But then injuries happened, and so they never finished there. But like they would start to go that way. So I kind of knew what I was talking about. But with the Brandon Ingram question marks, I don't even know if I could put them in the top 8 just because I don't even know what they're doing. Like, I don't know who they're trading Brandon Ingram for. So, like, I can't even figure out where they're going to be because that's a big player to trade. Like, that's a big part of their offense. So, I can't even give a prediction for them. They're just an incomplete right now. So, are we sticking with OKC at 1? Do we like that? Like, I guess that sounds fine. Doesn't sound bad, but I can't even decide where I want everybody to go. Like I said, Denver at 5. I feel good with that. Someone said 100% OKC at 1. Yes, that, like I said, I feel like that's, not terrible, like to have them be the number 1 seed because I feel like a lot of people are predicting that, but I don't even know if I feel confident in that. But Denver at 5, I feel confident in. Like, we'll check back in when the season ends if Denver finishes 5, but like, I feel really confident in that. Let's think. Okay, let's try to solidify a list. Let's do OKC at 1. Let's do Minnesota at 2. Let's do the Mavericks at 3. See, the other issue with the Mavericks is like Kyrie and Luka get hurt a lot. And so like if they miss a bunch of time, are we going to have issues there? So that's a question. This is so tough. I really like the Warriors at 4. I really do. Or 6. 4 or 6. Because like I locked in Denver at 5. 4 or 6. Like I don't know. Like who's to say that? Okay, if you watch the page, you know I'm a huge fan of Kuminga. Like Jonathan Kuminga is someone I have been hyping up for a while. But who's to say Kuminga won't have an all-star season? Like, I don't know. Like, I really am struggling here. Okay, how about this? My list is Denver at 5, and the rest is to be determined because I can't even make a finalized prediction. I can't. How about this? Okay, Denver at 5. We all agree on that, or at least I agree on that. And we agree Portland won't make it. Okay, that's a finalized prediction. And the Jazz won't make it. That's a finalized prediction. And the Suns won't make it. And the Clippers. See, Ty Lue is such a good coach, though. He gets the best out of everybody. But if Kawhi Leonard is not going to be there, and right now Kawhi is hurt, it's going to be really hard for them to make the playoffs. So I feel kind of confident we'll leave the Clippers out too. And unfortunately, Lakers fans, I know there's a lot of you, I'm leaving the Lakers out. Yeah, I think I'm leaving the Lakers out. I'm going to leave hope for the Spurs because Chris Paul, like I said, makes teams playoff teams. But I'm not necessarily putting the Spurs in. And then we'll just roll from there. But keep your eye out for the Warriors at 4 as like the surprise team, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then OKC at the 1 seed. Like I said, I feel okay about that. And I feel like Anthony Edwards should have an MVP season. I talked about that recently. So Minnesota at 2 is not, it doesn't make me feel wrong, you know. Someone said, he's such a good coach, but Kawhi isn't even ready for training camp. That's what I'm saying. Like, he is an awesome coach, but they don't have Paul George anymore. And if Kawhi is literally not there, as good of a coach, okay, but here's the thing. Eric Spoelstra with Miami. You know what I mean? So, like, but as good as a coach as he is, the West is too loaded. So if Kawhi is not there for a chunk of time, I'm going to stick with my prediction that the Clippers will not make it. So yeah, I guess look out for the Grizzlies to have a bounce back season, the Warriors have a bounce back season, Denver to be middle of the pack in terms of standings, not necessarily playoff success, but like in terms of where they rank in the standings. And look out for the Spurs and the Rockets to, you know, make the playoffs with their new core. We'll see, but thank you guys for joining. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!